This is our bar exam masterclass. In this short video, I'm going to be breaking down the very basic tenets of essays on the bar exam, how you can score well, how you can pass the bar exam with ease. Let's jump right into it. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe to this channel for more of these videos. Be sure to check us out at barcastaudio.com for full bar exam prep, audio outlines, audio flashcards, essay attack sheets. We have everything you could need to pass the bar exam. Check us out at barcastaudio.com. Now, without further ado, let's start our bar exam essay masterclass. Now, this masterclass is very simply going to break down the core tenets that you need to know on a big picture level. Now, if you're taking the uniform bar exam, that means you have to know all of the MBE subjects. What are the essay subjects covered on the uniform bar exam? Very simply, your 6 essays can test any combination of the following about 14 subjects. Let's run through them now. They can test business associations, including agency, partnership, corporations, and limited liability companies. They can test civil procedure. They can test conflict of laws, constitutional law, contracts, criminal law and procedure, evidence, family law, real property, torts, trusts and estates, including decedent estates and trusts and wills, as well as Article 9 of the UCC, otherwise known as secured transactions. So now you know the format. You understand that it's 6 half-hour essays. You are entering this process with eyes wide open. If you're taking the California bar, understand that that is going to be 5 one-hour essays, as well as the multi-state performance test. Now, if you're taking the uniform bar exam, you're also going to take 2 90-minute multi-state performance tests, which are closed universe tests that provide you with all the law, all the materials you'll need. It's almost like a DBQ if you had those in social studies, where you have all the materials. You're not bringing in any outside knowledge. You're going to apply the law as presented to you within these materials provided. Those are, again, going to be 2 90-minute essays. You don't really want to go over. Understand the format going in, and that will better prepare you to understand what is going to be expected of you. And that's going to be like an additional sort of understanding as we go through this process, but big picture, understand the format if you're taking the uniform bar exam. It's important early on to just get a sense of what is going to be tested. What is the format? It sounds so simple, but too often students are like, wait, what? I have to do how many essays? And it's already late into the bar exam process. Don't do that. Enter with eyes wide open. Don't wait too long to really understand the format, to wrap your head around it. And that leads us to our second key tenet for this bar exam masterclass, and that is understand what is being asked of you. Again, this sounds straightforward, but too often students just don't get it. The bar exam is not asking for you to write essays to a gray area. I understand that much of law school is about the idea of getting to maybe, right? It is about understanding the gray area of the law and analyzing the facts of a hypothetical on both sides of that issue, where a court could come down either way. And that is how you demonstrate your understanding of the law in law school. The bar exam is not like that. You're not writing to a gray area. You're writing to a conclusion that is supported by the hypo. They don't want you to, it shouldn't be a gray area where you land on this. Listen, there may be questions where students are kind of 50-50 on how the facts should shake out, but from your perspective, be unequivocal in your interpretation of the facts. Be unequivocal in your interpretation of the law, and state confidently, state succinctly, state in detail how you reach that conclusion. The bar exam essays are not really essays. They're more like word problems you may have taken in math class growing up. You're going to receive a set of facts, a set of variables that you need to then put together and reach a predetermined outcome with a right or wrong answer. And you need to show your work, because if you do not show your work, you're not going to receive full credit. You're not going to pass this exam. Treat your bar exam essays like a math problem. Understand what is being asked of you. They don't want you to operate within that gray area. They want you to treat it like math. Our third tip here for this masterclass is really important as well. Understand the memorization required. Students are uncomfortable with the idea of how much memorization is actually required of the bar exam, because it's not just rote memorization that is required of you. You have to be able to recall rules and then apply them to facts, which is more of a challenge. But that doesn't mean that you should underestimate the memorization required, because it's one thing to do practice MBE questions where you have rules and sort of fake rules, and you kind of get the subject matter and you can discern how a rule should maybe shake out without having to provide cold recall for 4 elements of a rule statement. That's not what the essays are about. For the bar exam essays, you need to be very mechanical in your line of thinking. I know people talk about that in civil procedure in law school, where it's bang, 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 3 elements of a rule, and then applying the hypothetical facts to the 3 elements of that rule. That's how you must be at every level of your bar exam essays. You have to be mechanical in your thinking. You have to understand the memorization that is required of this exam. You need to understand that you need to have a cold recall of a lot of rule statements. Now, don't be deterred. Don't be upset about this realization. I just want you to enter eyes wide open and not enter with this misapprehension, misunderstanding as to what is being required of you. You are going to need a cold recall of these rule statements, and just kind of sort of knowing the rules is not going to be good enough. Next up, again, maybe my most important tip that I'll give you this whole video. You need to understand the timing of your exam. Now, this speaks to the format, right? I said that the UBE is 6 half-hour-long essays, then the 2 90-minute MPTs. I said that the California bar exam is 5 one-hour essays, and then the 1-hour MPT. But, and this is a big but, you have to understand that just thinking about those numbers in your head is not the same thing as understanding the timing of the exam. Because it's not until you do it, it's not until you practice under these cold conditions in real time that you appreciate just how difficult it is to actually take in the info, spit out everything you want to onto the page with your fingers under those time constraints. You need to practice those time constraints. You need to do it. It's deeply unpleasant. I get it. I do. Nobody wants to spend their summer doing timed essay questions. But unfortunately, this is the path you found yourself on. And if you want to do well on the essays, this is what is going to be required. You need to take essays under time conditions. Now, you don't have to do it every single day, but you need to do it a fair bit, because otherwise you're going to enter exam day and be absolutely lost when you are suddenly 10 minutes behind on your UBEs or on your MEEs on the UBE or on your California essays, and you feel like you can't catch up anywhere throughout this process. So, practice under real-time conditions, understand the timing, understand how the timing of these essays works by actually applying it and practicing it. Next up, understand point allocation on the essays. What do I mean when I say point allocation? Understand how these are graded. Most MEE essays are graded on this 1 to 6 scale for most jurisdictions. Look up how your bar exam essays are going to be graded, because it is important to appreciate that the difference between you getting maybe a 5 out of 6 on one essay while simultaneously devoting too much time to that one and getting a 2 on another essay, it's not going to be worth it. You're better off getting 4s across the board. You don't have to write the most perfect essay at the expense of another essay. Too often, students get completely consumed by one question where they're like, I just don't know. I have to get everything I can out on this. And it comes at the expense of other questions where they could otherwise score more points. You're not going to know the perfect answer to every question, but that doesn't mean that you can just completely skip a question. Don't do that. If you find yourself getting caught up, don't simply abandon one of these questions, because that is the number one thing I see with students who failed the bar exam. They come in, they tell me, I didn't even get to the last 2 questions. How? You have to understand how the points are allocated. You have to understand how that's unacceptable. You cannot simply get caught up and not get to those questions. And this comes from a misunderstanding of both point allocation as well as timing. You are not going to do that. You have watched this video. You have listened to Barcast audio. You've listened to me here speak and tell you don't do that. Don't allow yourself to misunderstand both the point allocation and the timing, and enter this process with eyes wide open.